evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Fallout Bar here on night 5 of the PDC World Darts Championship. Myself, Jack Garwood, and Charlie Hopper is back once again. How are we doing, buddy?
Yeah, good. Really good, mate. A really good day of darts. And, a day that I've managed to get to sit down and watch nearly all of it. And, some of the games I had on whilst I was at work, painting and stuff. So, yeah, there was some good games, and it ended it ended in a really strange way. But I'm sure we'll come on to that in a couple of minutes.
Is that work in inverted commas?
It was me locking myself away in one of the hotel rooms and just painting whilst I had it on. Not sure I was meant to, but I don't think my boss will be watching this. But if he is, then I don't know if I'll be there tomorrow.
That's definitely me playing the video in the show as well. Sorry about that. Good evening to everybody in the chat room. How we doing, folks? Plenty for us to discuss this evening. So I guess we should probably get on with it, Charlie. Apologies in advance. We don't have all of the video clips available just yet. Barzi forgot to put them into the show, and he's currently interviewing Gerwyn Price. But as soon as he's finished with Gezi, he's going to pop them all into the software that we use so I can play them for you. So we might have to go back to a couple of them, but we will start with the very first game, which was a decent little battle, this one, Charlie. It was Andrew Gilding against Rob Owen. Owen finished second on the Challenge Tour this year, earning himself a tour card. We've seen plenty of him down in Portsmouth at the Moda Super Series and various other events. Andrew Gilding has been a little bit resurgent this year since picking up his tour card start of 2021, but 2022 has been the year where Goldfinger has really kicked on, a few Pro Tour finals, etc. But this match was probably closer than most were expecting, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, to be quite honest with you, I just didn't expect Robert Owen to have that certain reaction with the crowd in the first set of the match. It threw me a little bit when I was watching the game, because he really gave it back to the crowd. And look, we don't get to hear what's said on TV, and it seems to be muted a little bit. But yeah, it was a strange one, and for him to take the opening set, it kind of gave him that impetus to go on. But Andrew Gilding he held in the game. He took his chances when he needed to, going 2-1 up, and then having been pegged back, and then just taking control in the last set was impressive. It was really impressive from Andrew Gilding. He had to weather that early storm, but he did that really well, and he put pressure on Owen when he needed to.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a shock that it's taken us 5 days to get to this point, but today was the worst day we've seen from the crowd at the World Championship so far. They weren't good in this match, and it pretty much carried on throughout the entirety of the day. There's been the usual conversation online about the fact that a lot of people there aren't really fans. They're just there for the party atmosphere, beers, sing a few songs and whatever else. But the problem is that that's what this event has been marketed as and billed as, and it's what PDC Darts has been billed as for a long, long time, right? And singing songs like Yaya and Colo Touring, I don't have a problem with, because you'd be miffed if you rocked up and there was no atmosphere whatsoever, right? People are, feed the stands and stand up, you love the darts is boring, the Icelandic clap's boring, Yaya and Colo's boring, don't take me home, why do they sing it after one song? Nobody's ever happy with anything. But then if you sit there in a silent crowd, everyone's like, what on earth is going on? Why is there no atmosphere? They were shocking tonight, etc. So it's about finding that balance, but it seemed to be that from the very first moment, the crowd overset the line tonight with Rob Owen. I've seen a couple of comments on social media from Rob's partner. I've actually spoken to Rob this evening as well, and there were comments being thrown at him, one about being Welsh and calling him a sheep shagger or whatever else. And there were also people that were mocking him and claiming he was disabled because he was wearing a knee brace as well, and that didn't go down very well at all. So I think that's why we got the reaction we did from Rob Owen. The problem is that obviously he's just defending himself at that point, but the minute you try and take on the Ali Pali crowd, rarely does it come out in your favour. And I feel that in the key moments in this game, that went against him, because on those doubles, you're getting that Andrew Gilding was just allowed to go about his business and get over the line.
Yeah, and look, I hope he's okay. I think in that first game, we did hear, if anyone was watching it on Sky, we did hear the chants. They were there. You could hear them. Whereas, in other games they were maybe muted and weren't, you couldn't hear that to what extent. But for him, I think once he was 1-0 up, he was fighting a battle against Andrew Gilding, but also against the crowd. And when it comes to those big moments, which we all talk about in when he needs to, for example, serve, throw for a set, maybe when he needs the dart, they're going to be right behind him and they're going to really get on his back. But again, you just don't condone, you just don't want that behaviour, do you, at all? And when really nasty stuff are being said towards him, there's just no, there's no leg to stand on really with it. It's horrible.
Yeah, it's just not nice at all. Performance-wise from Andrew Gilding, it wasn't bad from either player. We saw 8 180s between them. Doubling percentages where Rob Owen's been let down in this one, just 27%, 10 from 36. Gilding 10 from 25 in the end. So they've actually won the same amount of legs, which is the niche part of set play. But when it comes down to it in that deciding set, it is Goldfinger that gets over the line. I'm just going to have a quick peek at who he plays next. Gilding. Dave Chisnall up next. That will be a tough test for Andrew Gilding, won't it?
Oh, it'll be a tough test. He'll have to improve on his performance today, but it's still a standard performance. A decent performance. 40% of his doubles, as you say. He was pretty good. He was pretty decent, and he hit a level. I know he obviously exceeded that level in the last set, but that will be a tough game. But there's no reason why he can't perform better and cause a shock.
No reason at all, especially as we've seen it on the floor from Andrew Gilding so far this year. As I did say at the start of the show, if you just joined us, we don't have the clips ready as yet, but as soon as they are ready, we'll play as many games as we've spoken about at that point, back to back. So we'll play them for you as soon as we do get them. But that was match number 1 from this afternoon. Number 2 saw the young Dutchman, Danny Janssen, the mullet, winner of Players' Championship 9 earlier in the year, taking on Paolo Nebrida, the Filipino qualifier from the Asian Tour. I want to talk the Asian contingent in general to start with before we get too much in this match, because I've been pretty impressed with them, considering there hasn't been an Asian Tour for the last couple of years due to COVID and other reasons, and it's only starting up again this year, and the fact that a lot of them have been reduced to soft tip or whatever. Been still steadily impressed by what they're capable of. Christian Perez took Simon Whitlock close. Was steady in the Grand Slam as well. We saw Ilagan get through the first round, Beaton in the second round. We saw Nebrida push Janssen all the way here. And I tweeted earlier, I don't think the Asian Tour can come back soon enough. I think with more steel tip regular darts, a couple of years ago, we were seeing Ilagan and Malikdom firing in 9 darters on the Asian Tour in semis and finals of streamed events. If they're doing that more and more week in, week out, I genuinely am starting to look at Asia, and in particular the Philippines at the minute, with Perez, Nebrida, Ilagan, Malikdom as the next little hotspot for darts.
I couldn't, when you put that tweet out, I couldn't agree more. That literally is it. The more exposure, the more opportunity these players get, the stronger they will get on stage, and we will see them and they'll become regulars on our screens. That it proves it in the game that we're gonna touch on. Yes, it was double trouble for Nebrida, but after that, he really did give Danny Janssen a scare, and that's what we're going to see in games. These Asian players who are going to get the exposure, who are going to get the constant practice and training that they need, will just go from strength to strength and will become regulars and will go deep in tournaments.
Yeah, I feel that Wayne Mardell got this spot on. I was having a little bit of back and forth with him on social media about it as well, and that because of the way that soft tip is, and because of the fact that the boards don't accept darts at angles, they're so used to throwing flat, which is absolutely fine as a technique. We saw Phil Taylor make the most of it for a long, long time, but I feel like they don't know then when to switch and when not to switch. I feel like it's just very much, we're just going to keep bombarding this, and that's adding to the trebleless visits that they're picking up, and they're getting the deflections and that sort of thing. I don't think they know how to manipulate the dart enough to suit the way that they're throwing on a steel tip board, because obviously soft tip, the areas are bigger. All they've got to do is hit part of the board, even if the dart doesn't stay in or whatever. And I think that's what's letting a few of them down at the minute. But they do all throw incredibly flat. But there's nothing wrong with it. It's just in steel tip, there's an advantage to getting your darts to kick up because you open up the bed a bit more.
Yeah, 100%. And again, I agree with that. And I think, look, I think as you mentioned, the return of the Asia Tour will be massively beneficial. I can only see positives to it, really. And I think the opportunities that we're seeing now of these players is brilliant. It really is great for darts, and it opens up the field. It lets us, I guess, warm to characters that we've maybe not seen. I'd have to agree. We'll talk about Leonard Gates in maybe 20 minutes or so. Again,
you're gagging to talk about Leonard Gates right
I
now.
am, yeah, another character that you warm to, and these are the players that we don't see every week or every tournament. But when they do come on, the characters to see, and they're pushing some of the best players all the way.
Yeah, they are indeed. Well on Danny Janssen, obviously moving on to the next round. We've seen what he's capable of. We've seen what his A game is at the very start of the year, winning Pro Tours, etc. There were concerns when he was winning, and I think those concerns are being realised at the back end of this year. The expectation on him is a little bit greater now. The pressure on him because of that is a little bit greater. And technically, his action is not the most rigid. It's not the most sturdy. There are going to be wider darts. That's not the right word at all, but more varied. It's not going to be bang straight down the middle. You're going to get a little bit more variance in where he's throwing. You're going to get looser darts, etc. And I think we're starting to see that a little bit now. Still very, very young. Still got plenty of time in this game, but I think nerves clearly played a part in this, and obviously that action just not holding up down the straight and narrow when he needs it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there'll be many opportunities that you average less than 75 in the first set and win, and find yourself 1-0 up. I mean, he was lucky that his opponent had double trouble for the first 2 sets. And then after that, he just let his opponent back into the game. And, again, his doubling then became, you want to get off the stage, essentially. You want to get the job done 3-0 done. 9%, 9.5% on your doubles in the third set. You can't be doing stuff like that. And that gave him the opportunity to then come back into the game. Look, fair enough, he's got over the line, he's got the job done, but we are going to see that inconsistencies with his throw and his scoring. You just got to hope that, he maybe will be looking to not be punished, but against those better players, when you maybe one of your darts goes a bit skewy to the side of the treble 20, he'll get punished.
Yeah, I mean, there was a little bit of conversation at the start of this as well about how Christoph Ratajski's in waiting and perhaps he hasn't had the best year compared to where he's been on the tour the last couple of years. Do you think that plays a part as well? Do you think players are always going to sit there and tell us that they're thinking about it one match at a time, one game at a time? We'll think about this one, then we'll think about the next one. But when you do get a segment of the draw that is considered a bit nicer, look, Ratajski can still rock up an average 104 against him up on that stage for the entire match. But given his current form at the minute, he's one of the seeded players you would target. When you get that sort of draw, do you think players overthink it and start to try and push it that little bit more because they know that chance is waiting for them?
I don't know. I think everyone will say you've got to take it one game at a time. But I know darts and football is different, but when you look at the World Cup, for example, you will look at the draw and naturally you will pave the way for your side, won't you? You will look at who you may play in the next round. So you've got to look at it and see, well, I may come up against a certain player, but in the World Championships and on that stage, as we've seen tonight, anything can happen. So you have to take it one game at a time. And for Danny Janssen, 2-0 up in dreamland, really, it almost slipped through his fingers.
It did, but it didn't in the end. For the mullet, the man with one of the best haircuts in darts, or lack of haircut, pretty much. That's the issue with Danny Janssen. But we'll hear from him very, very shortly once we have that interview clip ready for you guys. Third matchup, and another one that on paper should have been very, very close. In fact, the bookies and our friends at Betfred did have Niels Zonneveld favourite in this one. Look, Louis Williams, when he first picked up a tour card, was incredibly inciting and was making deep runs in Pro Tours, but hasn't quite played off again in the back end of 2022. Zonneveld's been on the up perhaps a little bit more, but a straight sets victory for the younger Prince of Wales. Yes, there are 2 of them at the minute. Not sure how I feel about that. I know Phil Bars will be doing his absolute nutty. There's only one for him, and it's Richie Burnett. But a solid performance from Louis Williams. clinical, 40% on the doubles, 3 180s, 92 average. That's pretty solid for your World Championships performance in round one.
But a result I never would have expected. I would have expected it to be a fifth set, last leg decider between these two, and he just completely blew him away. He performed so well, and let's not forget, he almost pulled off an exceptional 9-darter, which would have just topped off a perfect performance from him. Impressive, really impressive. You've got to feel for Niels Zonneveld though, because the result has sort of has put his fate there in front of him, hasn't it? Really, and it's a shame for him. But I expected a closer game, and he just couldn't. He couldn't stay in touch with Williams.
Yeah, it feels like this was just a matter of time, and there wasn't a massive difference between the performances. The 140s and 180s are in Louis Williams' favour, but the steady tons are in Zonneveld's favour. They both finished pretty similarly, but Louis just bought himself so many more darts at double, and when he's had those opportunities, he's taken them.
Yeah, and that's it. He had 12 more opportunities on the outer ring than Niels Zonneveld, and that basically proves it. He was way ahead in the game. He was impressive, and I just wish that last start would have gone in. I really do, because the whole place would have erupted, and it'd have been perfect for everyone to see that. But what a performance by him! Really, really impressive.
Yeah, shades of Willie Borland just last year hitting a 9-darter to win your first round match. However, that would have been a decided leg in a decided set. This would have been for a 3-0 straight sets victory, but a solid victory for Louis Williams nonetheless. On to the final game of the afternoon session, and our seeded player was number 17, Jose de Sousa, taking on Simon Whitlock. Look, numbers-wise and average-wise, this tells you this wasn't the best of games, but actually this was thoroughly enjoyable. They both missed shed load of doubles at exactly the same time. They both played their best legs against each other at the same time. There was 180s being chucked in that they were matching. This just had everything. This was your typical Jose versus Simon Whitlock. You can get absolutely anything from these two performances.
It was just, I don't even know what to say about this game. It was just incredible. The first set was absolutely terrible. To watch it, I was thinking, what is going on? Simon's setup for the big shots were exceptional, and he really was. He was reeling them off, and then his last start would let him down. Jose was just didn't seem to be there at the right time, and Simon rightly took a 2-0 lead. And at that point, I thought this game is going one way, and it would be Simon Whitlock. But he talked about in his pre-match interview, it would come down to the doubling, and it did just that. It was not a vintage doubling performance, and it was comical at times. But look, de Sousa somehow got over the line in that one. It was I think Simon Whitlock probably will be sat in his hotel room tonight thinking, how have I let that one slip?
Yeah, I said it at the start, but the best way to describe it, this game was fun, despite the fact there were moments of complete insanity. But that's exactly what you're going to get from these two players. Whitlock did take a 2-set lead, 3-2 in both of those sets, because it was tight, it was edgy, there were misses galore, but it was Whitlock that made the most of them. But then after that second break, it just felt like it fell apart from a little bit, didn't it? Jose winning 3 straight sets, Whitlock only picking up 2 legs in that time, 3-0, 3-1, 3-1. Was it the big finishes that killed him, Jose? 3-ton pluses, just at the complete wrong moments.
It probably was just at the complete wrong moments. And you look at set 3 and set 4, Simon had 6 opportunities on the outer ring. Within 2 sets, Jose just reeled him back in. The first to come back into it without dropping a leg, and then he comes in again with 50% on his double. Somehow he improves his doubling on the outer ring. And it just seemed to go wrong for Simon. And at 2-2, you kind of felt like the writing was on the wall at that point. And Jose just got the job done. He's had a pretty poor year, in all fairness. And it was weird because on his Sky interview, he'd said how good a year he'd had. And then when he came off and he'd said he'd had such a poor year. But look, he's got the job done, hasn't he? That's what we always talk about. It wasn't vintage, but as you say, it was fun to watch because you did not know which way it was going to go.
Are we going to accuse them of playing mind games a bit there, or are we going to say it's like his count and he didn't have a bloody clue what was going on?
Well, there was a couple of games tonight where certain players didn't have a clue what they were going on with counting.
Yeah, we're going to get to them. As I said, we're still waiting on interview clips to be uploaded. Oh, what do we have? We have the first few. Right, let's go back through the first half. We'll go through the afternoon session, and hopefully we'll get the evening session. So we will do those in order. So we'll start with Goldfinger Andrew Gilding.
Oh, I'm so happy. I've forgotten what it's like, to be honest. I never get an easy game at the Ali Pally, I don't think. It seems to go to the last set or last leg or something. But I'm so happy, especially with the crowd. They're so vocal today.
Second player to mention that this week, Martin Lukeman, was like, I thought it would just be like Blackpool, but totally shocked by the atmosphere of the Alexandra Palace. Next up is Danny Janssen. Let's see what the young Dutchman had to say.
Yeah, it wasn't real bad. It was my first time, and I was really nervous because, this is the World Championship, and the words say it. This is where everybody wants to be. And finally, I'm really happy that I win. It was not good, it was not bad, but it needs better. I know that for the second round, but I'm just happy that I win, and that's all that matters for me now.
Professional response from the 20-year-old. Expect absolutely nothing less, giving nothing away. On to Louis Williams. Let's see what the youngster had to say.
No, not really. That's one thing I learned, not to put too much pressure on myself. I just thought, if I lose my talk, I lose my talk. It is what it is. It's my own fault for not putting the effort in. But I thought, if I have a big push at the end of the year, get that 1 or 2 wins or something I get, and then I've kept my talk out. I know I've done myself proud. Because that's the goal I set from 2 years ago when I got my talk out. I thought, just secure it at the end of the 2 years, get in that top 64. And go from there. But I've achieved a lot more. I've played in the Worlds twice, and I never really thought that'd happen, to be honest with you.
Have you felt the pressure a little bit? Because even before you got your card, you were being spoken about so much that Louis Williams was the next cab off the rank that was going to come through and do major things. Have you felt that pressure and expectation?
Yeah, I'm not lying. There is a slight feel of pressure, I suppose, when everyone's talking about you that highly. And like I say, I've dropped off. That's just due to myself and what I've got going on, I suppose. But there is that pressure, but I'm just hoping to live up to expectations again now and just go from there.
Solid from Louis, talking about the pressure from when he first burst onto the scene. And we close out the afternoon with Jose de Sousa.
Because, after the second vaccine, as I explained some time ago, they affect me, my muscles, nerves, and everything, And after the World Match play, I start to play better again. Not solid, but I start to play make some good performance. It's in some way, it's like I see the light in the end of the tunnel, and right now I know I can change the game. I changed the game today. It's just some kind of big mentality I have to make or to change the things in the right moment.
Interesting to hear from Jose. Still referencing those vaccines that he had. That really did seem to throw off his game in the middle of 2021. But he does seem to be on the way back up here in 2022. I'm going to cut away from the PDC World Championship very, very quickly because I've got another interview waiting in the back end, or another clip, shall we say. The JDC World Youth Championship final took place before the start of play this afternoon, and that was won by none other than Luke Littler. He won 5-0 in the final, and we do have a short clip from Luke after his win.
I think I can give everyone a good game. I've been at Lakeside, got to the last 32, but I think I could just give anyone a game, and I can't wait to start development tours, and I'll have a crack at the UK Open qualifiers as well.
On the development tours, obviously we've seen so many great players come through that system. Do you want to emulate them, and do you think you can go and do real damage on the development tour this year?
Yeah, obviously I'm still so young, 15, but people say I need time to get the experience, but I honestly think I've got the experience already, and I think I could just go onto the development tour and do quite well.
Scary thought that Luke Littler, a player of his calibre, is only just about to turn old enough to go and take on the development tour in 2023. That'd be really interesting to see how he gets on. I've already seen Henry Coates from the JDC move up and make that move, and he made some deep runs last year as well. And Luke's outperformed him at times on the JDC, so let's see what he's capable of. Right, moving on to the evening session then, and we start exactly where Charlie wants to be for pretty much the rest of the afternoon. We are talking about Sir Leonard of Gates is where we're going to go with that one, mate. Take it away, basically.
Oh, mate. Although it threw my acca into the mud, it was a He's just so good to watch. From the moment he came on the stage, I was just loving it. I just think he just doesn't look like he's all there. It's like he doesn't process what's going on in his. He missed the big number. There were moments when he was just asking the referee what the score was, what he left. It was just everything all into one. And to be quite honest with you, Gert Nenches should have really, with the quality that he's got, should have cruised it. And to be honest, last night you touched on how if we see his A game, then he will blow him away. I don't know what game that was, but I felt very sorry for the young lad because he struggled tonight.
Yeah, there was just no conviction in the performance from Gert Nenches at all tonight, was there? It was just sort of... It was almost hitting and hoping, wasn't it, in football? Like, just have a shot from back here, see what happens, sort of thing. Or just having a bash on a pool table or a snooker table, not expecting anything to go there. There was no conviction to that performance from Gert Nenches. It was almost like he got up there, it wasn't working for him, and that was it. That was the mindset for the rest of the evening. No matter how it went, it was just, I'm just going to keep doing this and doing this. There was nothing I can do to change it, nothing I can do to up this performance. It's not happening for me, and I'm just going to accept how this turns out.
Yeah, and look, if he turned up and played the game that we know he can, he'd have blitzed tonight. He'd have won the game, and he'd be in the next round. But it just didn't work, and I think they touched on his confidence as well during the game, and he clearly just didn't believe that his game was going to win him it tonight. And look, Leonard Gates just hung in there. He was pretty clinical at times early on in the game. His doubling was exceptional, but it was box office to watch, and I was loving it. I was laughing my head off at him, and good to see a bit of a surprise there.
Yeah, look, we said this about the Simon Whitlock Jose de Sousa game, but this level average wise was even worse by 4 or 5 points. We've just described it as box office. There aren't many players you can describe an 80 average or an 81 average as box office. John Norman Jr. springs to mind because the man's an absolute lunatic. But it seems to be if they come from North America, they're entertaining. Danny Baggish is good to watch, despite the fact he very rarely goes over the 100 mark. It's just a trait, perhaps, that they bring, that they are all showmen at this rate.
Yeah, and I think that Leonard Gates was just loving it up there, wasn't he? He was loving every moment of being up there. And yeah, look, I think as the game went on and it progressed, he started to gain confidence, and his facial expressions when things didn't go right were just, it was great. It was brilliant. I can't wait till he's next on the stage.
Yeah, a word on the crowd, considering they seem to hate everybody that isn't from England. I've never heard a more pro-American crowd in the UK in my life. The USA chants were going off. Leonard Gates was trying to get them to do the 300 Sparta, what is your profession chant?
Yeah.
Going off at the end. It was bizarre.
It was, yeah. Every time he won a leg, it was just USA, USA. It was mental, but I think they warmed to him, especially with the way he came out from during his song. It was great, and they warmed to him at that point. And yeah, he took the crowd under his wing and got him over the line.
Did indeed. Let's hear it from Leonard Gates in his post-match press conference.
Oh, yes, definitely it is. But I want to say to North America, if you're thinking about coming over here and doing this, I know they do a lot of having a good time. Okay, if you're serious about darts, put the good time aside. Come play darts first, then have your good time. You know what I'm saying? So that's a key note, because over here they do darts all year around and they do it serious. So if we want to be a part of this, we definitely got to get serious.
I'm struggling to take that. The man that's just danced his way on stage, can't count, messed around all night, chanted USA with a crowd and done a Sparta thing, has just gone, we've got to take this serious. If that's not taking it serious, I dread to think. If that isn't taking it serious, I dread to think what him pissing around looks like, wouldn't you?
I know. I just think it's great. I just think it's brilliant. And telling people to have the good times after you've played darts, I really would love to see what what that looks like when he pisses around.
One day I'm going to go over to the States and watch a CDC event, 100%. Right, we're going to move on to the next one, and it's another CDC player we get to talk about up there with the biggest comeback we've seen. Look, not in terms of average or stunning performance or anything like that, but in terms of being on the absolute depth. I think there's only one other player that springs to mind that we have seen a comeback like this from, and it was Ricky Evans from 2 sets down, 2 legs down, facing match starts, surviving 6 match starts. David Cameron, the world seniors master, survives that from Richie Edhouse, then wins 9 out of the next 10 legs to reel off a 3-2 sets win. I just couldn't believe when it was unfolding.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, last night you said if Cameron was to win, it would not be a surprise. But he was 2-0 down. His back was against the wall. There was in the way I saw it was that Richie Edhouse was going to win. You know, I saw that the game was done. It was done and dusted. And for him to fight back like he did in the manner that he did, unbelievable. And you know, really was great to see. And, you know, what a way of knocking out someone like Richie Edhouse, whose scoring power is so prolific. You know, what a performance to come back from you know, being on the verge of being knocked out.
Yeah, Richie Edhouse has fired in 8 maximums tonight in the first round and is still on his way home. 3-0 first set, 3-2 second set. You just felt at that point that it was going Edhouse's way. I'll be honest, even as someone that supports the world seniors in the way that I do, I didn't see this comeback happening. Cameron was struggling to hit tops. Tens was sort of there to bail him out, but at times wasn't. Edhouse was scoring better. Double 20 seemed to be at the end of a piece of string every time he needed it, every time he needed to make the most of a David Cameron miss. And the setup play, I thought, from Cameron was what was lacking in those first couple of sets. Scoring-wise, he'd match Richie to about the mid-200s, and then there'd be a slip. And it felt like it was every single leg. And it just put Richie a dart or two ahead every single time. But the comeback from that moment was absolutely superb. The more and more he built in confidence, I tell you what swung it for me. Treble 19 hitting on that comeback was superb. It was there every single time he needed to bail him out.
Yeah, and that's what's going to stand him in good stead. I mean, look, Richie Edhouse, his scoring is prolific, and that's what we've seen tonight with 8 180s. So I think for Cameron, okay, look, the first 2 sets were you know, he was outplayed, but then to go from an 85 average in the third set to jump to a 98 and then a 92 average, what a performance to roll back the years like he has done there. And for Richie Edhouse, I don't really know where it went wrong for him, to be honest. I think
we say roll back the years. Look, David Cameron is a world senior, but without being disrespectful, his world championship record is crap. At the lakeside. It is not as good as what he's capable of for a man that's qualified as often as he had. The run to the seniors world masters was very, very solid. Double top was definitely a key factor in that point there. But when that was missing for him to start, it felt like there would be trouble here. But as we said, superb. There is a couple more talking points. The Ali Pali Wasp was back on his shoulder for pretty much all of that comeback. Do you know what? I am not a suspicious man, right? I don't believe in any of that. But the minute Russ Bray took it off his shirt somewhere in the 4th set, I was like, if this goes to hell now, I am coming for you, Russ Bray, because it was fantastic to watch.
Yeah, it was, and just the angle of camera behind him as well, just to see it perched on his shoulder and sat there, just clinging on, and that he didn't even know it was there. It was.
I didn't seem to know that it was back at the end when Polly was interviewing him at the end either. Like, Russ has knocked it off. Not even sure he's told him what's going on. Then it's back again. And then it disappears. And she's like, "Oh, did you know you had a wasp on you for 4 sets?" No,
it didn't have a clue. But yeah, look, you know, some people will believe in things like that. But whatever it was, what a performance by him.
Yeah, especially to close out the match, by the way. He nearly won 9 straight legs. He thought he'd won 9 straight legs. To check out 92, he's miscounted, gone 25-17 and hit tops for what felt like the first time in the match first start as well. It was almost just sod's law, wasn't it, that he finally hits it, but actually he wanted the bullseye in that moment. To respond and go Tom 40, Tom 40, Tom 40 in the next leg just shows a mental toughness from Cameron that could take him a little bit deeper into this tournament.
Yeah, and especially with the longevity of the game. I mean, I know 5 sets isn't the longest form we will play in this tournament, and for some of these players it isn't. But to be 2-0 down, you're staring, you're staring at an exit, and he will have been. He will naturally have thought of that. So for him to endure that pressure that he did early on, to keep in the game, and then just slowly reel it off as he did, and put pressure on Woodhouse was impressive.
Yeah, really impressive. No David Cameron clip for you guys. I blame Barzy. It's on his other computer to the one he's uploaded it to. But the interview is available in full on our YouTube channel. So once the show's finished, obviously you guys can just head over there and catch up with that one if you so wish. Danny Noppert awaits for Excalibur in the next round. So that could be a really interesting battle. Look, Danny Noppert's got a level above, but Cameron produces what he did in them final 3 sets. We could be in for a real tight battle. Something that wasn't a tight battle was the next game. Danny Van Tripp, the Challenge Tour number 3, who's about to pick up a tour card because Scott Williams is about to earn his outright, blowing away the 1996 world champion Steve Beaton, 32nd straight world championship appearance, but it just did not happen for Steve Beaton tonight, despite all the build-up, all the promo, all the hype and celebration that he'd been there for so long and so consistent, but blown away by Danny Van Tripp tonight.
Yeah, just didn't work for him, did it, tonight? It didn't go at the time when he needed it. And yeah, look at Danny Van Tripp, the debutant. That was impressive. Impressive from him. He wasn't probably pushed as hard as he could have been, but a steady, 86, 82, 91 average across the 3 sets. Yes, Steve Beaton probably should have taken the 3rd set, and the match would have gone on for a little bit longer. But you do have to feel for him because it just didn't work for him, and he will know from the experience that he's got that some days you go up on the stage and it just doesn't click for you, and it didn't. But Danny Van Tripp, he had to do the job. And he did it pretty convincingly.
Yeah, look, we spent a lot of this season talking about Steve Beaton and how potentially he was at risk of losing his tour card. He secured that pretty early on, considering, and booked his spot here at the World Championship and was pretty content with that. Do we think that his lack of match practice since, though, has held him back a little bit here? Look, Beaton's played all the Pro Tours and everything else, but there is quite a big gap between that and the Players' Championship finals and then coming here. Whereas Danny Van Tripp been involved in the Moda Super Series, he was in the Netherlands at the Windmill World Masters. He's had plenty of match practice in the last few weeks. He probably comes into this sharper than Steve Beaton, and it showed up on that stage.
Yeah, 100%. I think that probably is the, look, Steve Beaton's had so much experience on that stage, but if you haven't had the run-in that you've wanted in terms of match practice, you will be naturally rusty. And Danny Van Tripp wasn't. He came straight in, hit the ground running, got going nice and early, and yeah, blew him away really.
Yeah, a bit of a strange action, but it's one that just seems to work for him as well, isn't it? Look, it must be difficult as well because I'm 6'1" and I think I'm okay. But any taller, I might be struggling. I've got friends that are much taller than me. The Dutch are the tallest nation in the world. It is not easy throwing from the height that a lot of them come in at. And Danny Van Tripp is not small either. It must be difficult for them to adjust their actions to that because they are probably too tall. The large majority of ones that are making the pro, Gert Nenchez is not short. We've seen Van der Voort have back issues, Kleermaker, Van Tripp. They're a big bunch. Benito van der Pas, another who had a strange action because of his size. And possibly that contributes to the reason why it's not as traditional as perhaps we see from others.
Yeah, exactly that. And the names you've been reeling off there, some of the tallest players that we have on within the darting community, really. And yeah, strange action. When I was watching, I was, it's a bit strange, isn't it? But it seems to work for him. I mean, we see a lot of these players like Gert Nenchez, who, obviously he seems to slope forward a little bit, doesn't he, in the way that he throws that. Danny Van Tripp just seems to be straight up.
Yeah,
he's just up, and it just works for him. And to be fair to him, if it works, if it clicks, yes, we don't know because obviously he's still young. We don't know how it will affect him in the future with back issues, etc. But what is quite scary is another Dutch dart star that we're seeing on our screens.
Is indeed. Obviously, we will see him. We'll see him more in this tournament. We'll also see him on tour next year. Obviously, he's about to pick up a tour card as well. Yeah, Miss Vincent Camphouse as well, to be fair. Another player in that category. Danny Van Tripp unfortunately falls in the same category as David Cameron. His clip isn't available for us in this show, but it is available in full for you guys to go and pick up on the channel. Make sure you've liked this video and subscribed so you don't miss out on any more uploads as well. On to the final match of the night. It's amazing how quickly it is. Suddenly, I thought, oh, we're absolutely cruising for time. Suddenly, we've been on the air for 40 minutes and we've still got to do predictions for tomorrow. But thankfully, there is only 4 games tomorrow, just an evening session for us to talk through, but some big talking points tomorrow night as well. A big talking point was nearly the potential upset of Gerwyn Price, because after the first set, Luke Woodhouse was absolutely flying against the world number 1, but he just could not sustain that throughout any of the rest of the match. And Gerwyn Price gets over the line with a 3-1 victory. Charlie, tell us how you thought about this one.
I think Luke Woodhouse should, this evening, have been interviewed following a win. That was my genuine feeling. Because after that first set, look, he's never going to... If he keeps that up, fair play. If you keep that up, and he's hit a level, but I did not expect the drop-off as it was. And I just felt so sorry for him because it just didn't work up there. After that first set of blowing Gerwyn Price out the way, and then they started to go on Gerwyn Price's misses, and she looked concerned. And I think a lot of people were thinking we may have a big upset on our hands. Somehow, Gerwyn Price has dodged a bullet tonight.
Yeah, look, I think that first set was the realization of what a lot of people in darts know, is just how good Luke Woodhouse can be.
Yeah.
The other 3 sets was Luke Woodhouse realizing I'm suddenly not at that level and I need to be to beat Gerwyn Price. There was no belief from Luke Woodhouse that his B game was capable of putting away Gerwyn Price, even though I think most will admit the world number 1 was there for the taking tonight. A few good moments. The 150 in particular was superb. 2 maximums, 34% on the doubles is steady enough from Gezi, but a 92 average from the world number 1 in round 2 is there for the taking from a player who's started the way he has. But I think because he wasn't straight away back at that level that he found in the first set, just spiraled down and down and down throughout the performance. And just the darts looked, look, he throws quite a light dart, but they looked so heavy on him constantly.
Yeah, I mean, look, the first set, the darts were just dreamy from him. They were unbelievable, the way that they were coming out. They were into the board exactly where he wanted them to. After that, they were wayward. They really were wayward. And I think he completely lost control of what he was doing. It just spiraled, as you say. It was out of control. It was spiraling, and Gerwyn Price just did what Gerwyn Price does. When the big moments came, he came. But Luke Woodhouse, you've got to feel for him tonight. You really do, because that first set was unbelievable. The rest, he just couldn't find it.
I suppose that's one of the beauties of this sport, isn't it? You can't play for time. You can't wait for your opponent to collapse. You have to get over the line yourself. And look, it was a long way from getting over the line in the end, losing 3-1, tight in that second set. Perhaps maybe he knew at that moment when he missed darts for that second set, didn't he, that Gezi gets away at 1, you give a little bit of a roar, then you're off stage thinking about it as well, by the way. No coincidence that falls apart 2 sets after that after he has to go off stage. No break again for him to go away and recompose. If there was another break and there was somebody there to just have a word with him and go, actually, keep going, you're still in this, don't overdo it, he's there for the taking, that sort of thing, we possibly, again, might have been talking about a different result tonight. But the break comes after set 1 and set 2, and after that, Gerwyn Price had him exactly where he wanted him.
Yeah, and the break came that second break came perfect for Gerwyn Price. If he went in 2-0 down, he would really have. I don't think he'd have come back from it. But to be going in at 1-1, to feel like you're back in the game, the raw came out. It was at the right time for him. And then once things got out of control for Luke Woodhouse, there was no escaping. It was just one-way traffic for him all the way to the end of the match, which was a shame to see. But we saw in glimpses the capability of Luke Woodhouse.
We did indeed. Let's then hear from Gerwyn Price, who makes his way into round number 3 in his post-match press conference.
Like when my back's against the wall, I need to have those big moments. They're there. But, I'd rather not put myself in those situations all the time where I'm having to hit big checkouts or ball finishes where I slip up and hit a treble 5. So, yes, it's some positives to come out of it, but a lot of negatives from today. But no, the first and foremost was just to win the game. get through the first round, like I said, go home, come back after Christmas, and I'm sure I'll be 100% better. Yeah, it always affects me. I mean, it's tough. It's even today as well. First set I lose, and then the crowd gets on your back a little bit. I try and not react like I have in previous years, and sort of just contain myself, keep myself composed. And I think I've done that pretty well today until I won the second set, and I let myself go. But yeah, it's difficult to try and not let yourself go over the top. And a couple of times today I did, but it was just those vital moments. But yeah, it's difficult out there playing against any player, but when the crowd are on your back as well is extra difficult. But yeah, I come through a difficult game, but Luke didn't play what he could. Is it frustrating that it happens here more than anywhere else? Because obviously we follow the tour, and across the year it's been relatively good, apart from here.
Yeah, it's been good everywhere. I mean, the majority of the fans and majority of the players in this tournament are English, so you're going to get it. It's just how well you can deal with it. And yeah, thankfully I come through this game, but I'm playing maybe a Dutchman, maybe an Englishman. I don't know who I want to play in the next round. It's going to be difficult, whatever.
Yeah, honest from Gezi as he looks ahead. And to be fair, he reiterated some things that he spoke about pre-tournament as well. Caught with him an exhibition just over a week ago, and he said, look, just get through this first round, get myself back here after Christmas. It's almost like 2 different tournaments at that point. He's done that job now, and he can start thinking about defending some more of that winner's prize money from 2 years ago. Right, that is today's darts all wrapped up. All that's left for us to do is look ahead to tomorrow. Just a 4-game slate tomorrow night. No afternoon session. I'm not really sure why. It's one of the only days where there is just an afternoon session, but as a man whose sleeping pattern is a little bit messed up right now, I'm not going to complain at all. It means I get a bit more of a lie-in. But there is 4 games for us to discuss, Charlie, which means we can probably give a little bit more opinion on them as well. And we start with Jim Williams against Sebastian Bielecki. How do you feel about this one?
Good game. Great game to start off the evening. This game could go either way. Sebastian Bielecki is a solid player, as is Jim Williams, a player that has continuously grown through the games that we've seen him. I think Jim Williams wins this. I'm going to go 3-2. I think this could go all the way. Whether the last set is close and it goes to sort of a last leg decider, that remains to be seen. But I think Jim Williams just has enough to get over Sebastian Bielecki. But again, this one could be a coin toss to see who wins.
Yeah, this is a really intriguing one. I'm still not sure we've ever seen Jim Williams' best game on TV, ever. And it doesn't look to me like the sort of person that ever settles up on a stage. He always looks nervous, and I'm not sure if that's just natural demeanour or what, but he always looks that little bit uncomfortable. And if Bielecki can start how we know he can, we've seen him make runs at the UK Open, we've seen him playing the Super Series earlier in the year, he's more than capable. And because of that, I think I'm going to shade Bielecki now. I think I'm going to go 3-2 that way. I think the youngster's a great talent. He's not one that there's an awful lot of attention on as well, which means that we know what he's capable of, but he's also being allowed to just grow and develop at his own rate. And because I think he's got a chance here, I'm going to say he wins this one 3-2. Jack's got Williams 3-1. Tommy's got Williams 3-2 as well. Bob's got Sebastian 3-2. Anon's got Bielecki 3-2 as well. He says Williams not in great form. Then Pat Everer's got Williams 3-1, which would knock Ron the Bomb to Q School. That's a big factor as well, actually, one to think about. Q tour cards on the line. And Jim Williams 3-1 says Sam. On to the second game of the evening. It's Jamie Hughes, Yoza up against Jimi Hendrix. How do you feel about this one, Charlie?
Another really good game. I mean, they keep coming, don't they? These games are really tough to call. I think I'm going to side with Yoza. I think he's got experience on that stage. I think he knows obviously how to perform on the stage. He's coming off the back of a couple of decent performances. I think he wins. I think he wins 3-1. I think he just has a little bit too much. But you can never write off Hendrix. Again, this game could be a classic. But I think Yoza will just have a little bit too much for him.
Yeah, look, I think Jamie Hughes is the better dart player of these two, pretty comfortably. But he always seems to find a way into battles and scraps and make this a lot harder than it should be. And because of that, I'm going to say it's a 5-setter, but I do think Yoza gets over the line, but it will not be pretty free-flowing that we saw from him when he won the the Czech European Tour 2, 3, 4 years ago, whatever it was, in the sweltering heat. That's what Jamie Hughes is capable of. Whether or not he produces that tomorrow is a different matter. But I'm going to say he wins this one 3-2. Tommy's got Hughes 3-1. Pat Everett's got Yoza 3-2. Jack's got Hughes 3-2. Daniel's got Hughes 3-1, as has Bob. Sam's got Yoza 3-0. Andrew's got Hughes 3-2. And Anon's got Hughes 3-2 as well. Not a single person backing Jimmy in this one. Not to be confused by Jerry as well, who feels like a fish. This could get a little bit confusing. On to the third game of the evening, and the final ladies player takes to the stage. The Queen of the Palace returns, Fallon Sherrock, to take on Rapid Ricky Evans. Charlie, talk to us about this one.
Yeah, I'm going with Ricky Evans in this one. I just think Fallon Sherrock's been. I don't think she's been at her best recently. I think she's had there's been a bit of talk about her, hasn't there, from a lot of people, and you know, people have kind of got on her back, and I think Ricky Evans will win this one. It's tough to see whether Fallon gets a set on the board. I'm going to probably go 3-1 or 3-0. Just to sort of sit on the fence. I think it goes in that way of Ricky Evans' favour. It's just whether Fallon gets a set on the board or not.
Interesting. I've done some digging on this one because I see there's clearly a lot of attention on this one as well. Ricky Evans' season average is 92. Right? And a few weeks ago, I'd have been very, very concerned about Fallon, but after her performances in the Motor Super Series that didn't get out of the group, but it was a tough group, there were plenty of performances in there that were mid to high 90s and above. The finishing looks a lot better, the setup play looks a lot better, scoring will be here or there, like that doesn't matter. And if the crowd do get on Ricky's back a little bit, as has been known in the past, I think he could be in for a tough test here. However, if the Fallon of the World Series rocks up, I think she's in a lot of trouble here, because I think he'll just go through the motions, go through the gears and do what he needs to. It depends how much attention there is pre-match media tomorrow as well, as to how that she's professional in it now, but there's still that, just let Fallon play for a while and let her get back to that level. However, I still think Ricky wins this one, but I'm going to say 3-2. I'm going to say he's pushed, and I'm going to say he gets over the line in that final set. Tommy's got Evans 3-2 as well. Daniel's got Evans 3-1. Ricky's got Evans 3. Bob's got Ricky Evans 3-1. Pat Evans got Rapid 3-0. Jack says Fallon could win, but Evans 3-2. Evans 3-1 unless he's crap, in which case Sherrock 3-1. Two horse race unless one of them's crap. I love that prediction. Evans 3-0. Ricky 3-1. Bring on a YMCA walk on. You can't boo the man. We said that about a number of players in the last couple of years. Ricky Evans is probably on that list as well, but if any crowd can, it's the Alexandra Palace crowd. Don Messer says, I feel they can't lose. Fallon wins. We move on to the final game of the evening, and it is the 5-time world champion, Raymond van Barneveld, back in a seeded spot at the Alexandra Palace, taking on Ryan Meikle, who perhaps wasn't as impressive the other night as many thought that he could be, but this should be a real tight battle. It should be.
Ryan Meikle's probably one of the lesser enjoyable players that I like watching, just with how slow his action is. But I think he will improve from his victory over Lisa Ashton. Look, the last two times these two have played each other, which have been in the Players' Championships, it's gone to a last leg decider. So I don't think there'll be much in it. I think Barney wins 3-2. I think it's a really good, high quality game. But I just think at the right time, the doubles will come for Barney. But Ryan Meikle has to improve from his performance against Lisa Ashton. If he doesn't, then Barney will beat him comfortably. If he does and he plays like we know he can, it could be a very, very tight affair.
Yeah, you sort of feel sorry for Meikle, by the way, because he takes on Barney, who's won 5 world titles. I'll just double. Is Lisa won 4 or 5?
4?
I'll lose track. But either way, he's taken on more world titles in 2 players than pretty much anybody else is going to in the entire tournament. He's more than capable of winning this game, but that mini resurgence from Barney, if Barney hadn't have gone and beaten Gerwyn Price twice at the Grand Slam, I'd be backing Ryan Meikle here. But there's just that Barney on TV. There's that love affair that's back him a little bit. He's going to get support from the crowd, 100%. The Barney army are going to be back in full chant because he hasn't done anything in recent memory to piss people off, like promising that he's going to play the entire tour and then disappear into an exhibition instead of a pro tour to save his card. That sort of decision, and he hasn't done that for so long now that everyone's just back in love with the man, the myth, the legend, Raymond van Barneveld, if you like. So because of that, I'm going to say Barney wins this one 3-1. But like I said, Ryan Meikle is more than capable of winning this one. Jack's got Barney 3-2. Tommy's got Barney 3-1, as has Bob and Pat Evra. Sam says, very impressed with Meikle recently. I fancy the shock in this game. He's going Meikle 3-1. Anon says Van Barneveld 3-2 with some nerves. Barney 3-2 for Andrew, and Ryan wins. Barney too self-aware, says Don Messer. Interesting group of predictions from you guys there. And we really do appreciate you getting involved as ever. But that is time to end tonight's show. Thank you very, very much for watching us here at Online Darts. A few quick reminders. Make sure you've liked this stream and hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any content for the rest of the year. Plenty more interviews to come your way from this tournament and heading into 2023, including our world famous now Q School coverage that we're making very strong plans for right now. Make sure you follow us on socials, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and all the like. And make sure you're back to join us tomorrow night for the Fallout Bar on day number 6. A big thank you to everybody in the chat room, to everybody listening back to this as a podcast, and to Charlie for joining me this evening on the show. We will see you all very, very soon.